Just like everybody else, I was a fan in the beginning. In the early 80s, I would go to backyard parties because I went to Cass Tech. So all my friends were going to these backyard parties. They were putting together clubs, and camaraderie was everything. And what really got me hooked was Ron Scott was DJing in the backyard, and he played so fine for like a half an hour, and the dance floor never parted. And that's my fruition moment for me. That's what ignited me.
Bruce Bailey is, I think, first and foremost a DJ, but not just a DJ, the consummate professional in all areas of DJing. Bruce Bailey spun in Detroit. He played records, but he was also a very significant party promoter, not just a promoter of parties, but promoter of the culture. He was seminal in the house music scene in the 90s and kind of took the reins of who is going to lead house music culture in the black community in Detroit. Bruce Bailey was that guy. There were other promoters, but his famed parties, whether we're talking about Club 246, whether we're talking about other venues around the city, he always built his brand. He was a guy that wasn't just thinking about DJing. He was thinking about DJing as it pertains to a brand. So Bruce Bailey is a name that is synonymous with dance music, party promotions, and excellence in Detroit. He's just very diverse. He's a guy that put a lot of other DJs on, and including myself. When I came out of college in 1995, I came back home to Detroit, and a guy that, helped me play out was Bruce Bailey. He appreciated what I did, and he was always sharing his brand. He always had, the mindset to have multiple DJs, hype an event, multiple DJs be a part of a bill. And so when we talk about a DJ lineup, Bruce Bailey is one of those guys that early on saw the power of a lineup, in promoting his events and parties, whether it's fashion shows or what have you. And so he's a DJ, but he just crossed over into other mediums to support his DJing and to show us that there's a power in branding, a power in this culture. And he really pushed dance music in Detroit and the entire culture, black culture specifically, when it comes to this music.
.246 started right after the Music Institute. The Music Institute was only open for a year, or I think 13 months. After that, during this time, in the very beginning of the 90s, you could not get a venue on the weekend to play house music. Weekly house music things, nobody was playing those because there was no opportunity. There was a lot of DJs, but none of them they were more in the music field instead of the business field, if you will. I'm be my own BBD. So I went and talked to the owner at Club 246. I said, I want a Friday or Saturday. He was like, oh, no, young man. We can't give you a Friday or Saturday. It's a big city. That's where we make all our money. And you want to come in and play house music? I said, okay, give me a Thursday. I'm going to change the whole landscape of the city. So Thursday began to be the new weekend night. Because now there was every Thursday at a dope venue downtown. At 246, I started out with a birthday party. I remember the first week, I think it was a birthday party for Tony Drake, Joyce Rhodes, and Richard Carson. So this is some of the marketing I still use to this day. So I put all those people on one birthday party the first week. All their friends came down. All my friends came down. I promoted it for about a month and a half with these plastic laminated business cards because there was no club to go to. Music Institute was closed, so. The success of 246, again, it was the only place. And I unlike the other events where you couldn't break in the circle of DJs, I was in control now. So I would let whoever I wanted to play. And since it was the only spot, everybody wanted to play there. That's where Minx got her start. DJ Minx. Delano Smith came out of retirement and started at 246 after he had been in retirement. Moody Man became Moody Man. I still have the white label, the Norma Jean Bell, My Baddest Bitch. That's where it dropped at. That's where Terrence Parker came and he dropped the Love's Got Me High. I got the acetate of that. It was an amazing time. Everybody in Detroit who was still here, Steve Crawford, Deontay in the Mix, Ray Bone, Scott Grooves. The list is endless. Everybody played, and 246 was the longest running, well, at that time, I don't know if it's still true or not, but it was the longest running weekly in Detroit history. 246 ran 7.5 years. Every Thursday, it seemed like it never snowed. Every Thursday was packed. The Music Institute was closed and everybody was trying to get their money overseas because there was no opportunities to, feed your family in Detroit. So I was working at the Board of Education, and about 6 years in, I started making more money DJing than I was in corporate America, if you will. And by 1997, I was doing this full time.
If I were to talk about any personal stories I have with Bruce Bailey, it would be the story of consistency. And since I lived in Detroit, moved out of Detroit, to all the way coming back to visit Detroit, Bruce has always welcomed me with open arms. I mean, to this day, he'll shoot me a text message and say, hey, do you want to come back and play a certain event? So his consistency and loyalty to those who have been a support to the scene just strikes me as unparalleled. Bruce Bailey called me in 1995, in 2005, in 2023, and he'll probably call me in 2033 if we're still doing this thing. So the consistent storyline of Bruce is his consistency, and he has the same following, the same level of clout. And when I say clout, I mean just respected. When it comes to, if it's a Bruce Bailey event, it's going to be top notch. It's going to be well attended. And the right party people are going to be there because they come for, I think, the Bruce Bailey brand, just knowing what you're going to get. So I love dealing with Bruce because I know I'm not going to get anything janky. I know he's going to have a level of polish to how he, treats his DJs, his guests, anything involved with a Bruce Bailey production. If his name is on it, it's not going to be bullshit. You can rest assured that. So my personal story for Bruce is the long, many decades of consistency. I love that guy to pieces, man. He's always had a soft spot for me. Welcome, open invitation. Anytime I come back to the city, I feel like I'm still in the 90s and Bruce will let me, do whatever I want to do. So I think he holds that distinction as just Mr. Consistency.
What made me branch out from DJing and going to promotions was the fact that as an upcoming DJ, I guess mid-'80s, there was no way to break the inner circle. So it would be the same DJs all the time. So instead of waiting by my phone for somebody to call me, as a college graduate, I used my business acumen. And I decided, hey, I'm gonna do my own gigs and I can book myself. And I don't have to wait for my phone to ring. I can just take it off the hook and I'm doing my own thing. So I set out to start my own night. I first started promotion at Cheeks the last year before it closed. The resident DJs were, I think, Al and Stacy. It was 8 of us: Steve Butler, Floyd Wellens, there's a bunch of cats I went to school with. I had just went to Western, I came back that year. I think the year was 87. It was 87, 88. That was the last year Cheeks was open. I remember we brought in Candy J, and I learned how to work with artists at that point because she performed live there. And that was my kickoff. Cheeks was my kickoff. And then I was still DJing during this time. And it was a party that went till 4 a.m. And once I saw the people were still in line in Detroit at 3 a.m., I knew I had something here. 246 was a block from Lola's. Now, another block over is now my current store, which is all in the same little 2-block radius. People really bought my CDs and stuff. So I was selling, $300 worth of CDs every week because I had the venues going. So the next obvious thing was to tie my music to apparel, because apparel and music basically go hand in hand. You got to get dressed before you go out and play. One of my friends, Danielle Martin, offered me an opportunity to design some clothes for Shane Park. So I designed some clothes for Shane Park. I gave it to them. They said they loved them so much that they wanted me to come in and run the actual apparel for Shane Park. So 4 years ago, I ran the apparel for a whole season. I sold all the artist clothes, plus I sold mine. During this time, I met Ted from the music hall. And then I took it to the music hall and I showed them what I wanted to do. And 2 days later, they were like, we're giving you a 10-year contract to produce stuff for the music hall and sell your own stuff.
He's known locally and he's respected within almost like a cult level following. But I say unsung because I think that his reach should be a lot broader given what he brings to the table. And so if everybody doesn't know a Bruce Bailey like I know a Bruce Bailey, I would call him unsung, because I think there are stories like Bruce that made it out of the city and that are coming from the city that I think the world would be better off knowing about and experiencing. So in that sense of on an international scale, Bruce is very unsung. He's known amongst those who know, but you don't know what you don't know. So I would call him unsung in the sense that he should be much more known on a wider basis.
To get overseas, you have to produce your own music. And me being a Detroiter, I always wanted to go, but I always had when it was time, when everybody else was leaving, I had a young daughter and I couldn't go. After that, I had an older mother after my daughter got of age, so I really couldn't leave. So I had to really focus my stuff here. But I still wanted to do some music. So when my sister moved back from New York, I had a little more free time to get away from the house. So I would go to the studio, and that's when I got with Delano Smith. He kind of showed me the ropes on the equipment, and I created my first track. So my first track hit the top 10. And I was like, okay, I got a hang of this now. So every year now I try to put out 2 tracks a year that are defining tracks. I do some deep tracks, and then I do some tracks that are what I hope will be hits. It's different between if you're local or if you're trying to be an international DJ. If you're a local DJ, you have to have a lot of friends if you want to get booked. You have to, if you don't have a lot, start meeting people and start producing your own material. When I mean material locally, I mean your own events. That way you can book yourself and you don't have to wait on the phone to ring.
Bruce Bailey is unsung in a sense of we have very known heroes of Detroit that took on international recognition, had multiple hit records, responsible for the birth and progression of Detroit techno as we know it. Bruce Bailey is also a producer, has had some significant tunes out. Also unsung in a sense of he's a local hero. Everybody in Detroit knows who Bruce Bailey is. Everybody comes to Detroit, especially in the black population, you will know who Bruce Bailey is if you are interested in dance music, house music, etc. And I would call him a local hero because we relied on Bruce to bring us that next wave of what was happening with house music in the 90s and beyond.